Welcome to Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. He's back off assignment. Welcome back, Mr. Tate Mathews. You've been a busy man lately. We certainly understand that. You've got another job besides Sports Connection, but you will be glad to know that the good doctor had a couple of great house calls. He was in rare form. And I think, I got the feeling if he had the chance, he would knife one of us to be back on the show.
No doubt about it.
I just don't know which one it would be.
Well, that's what I was going to say. First of all, reunited, and it feels so good. Second of all, I did know that because I watched the episodes on YouTube. I'm a loyal watcher as well, audience member as well. RIP Metro in week 1 was unbelievable, although it's not quite – it's funny. But now that we know Mark North and like him and respect the job he's doing – it's kind of a little uncomfortable, but not too uncomfortable. Still do it. RIP. That was great. And then seeing him last week in the preview outfit in the clown hat, I figured that was unbelievable. So at first I was going to say I'm pretty sure he was auditioning to get his old job back, but now it's very clear he's trying to get me booted out.
Maybe it could be a 3-person.
There's not enough time.
We would get through 1/3 of the script and I'd be going. No.
It got me. Kind of be like when you first started doing it and you saw one of his old scripts and it was from 2019 or whatever, but he hadn't changed the script since 2014.
He did great.
He's great at that.
He really did great.
Y'all did great.
It was fun. Well, I'm glad you're back though.
I'm glad to be
glad you're back.
Appreciate y'all putting up with me.
Let's do this. Now, we've got some exciting things going on. Now, you missed this last week. I know you watched the show and you knew this. Middle school, we won 3 state titles during fall break. We won a couple of golf state titles. And now we've got 2 teams in the soccer, girls soccer, 2 teams in volleyball. Can't wait to look at the brackets.
It's the way it ought to be in both volleyball and soccer. But before we go on, who was the golf team that won?
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that. Brentwood High by 20 strokes.
Pretty strong. And who called that?
You called it.
Oh, yeah.
Did I call the Page girls, though?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was leading you to that. And then who was the other? And you called that.
Let me tell you something. I'm looking forward to this,
I think we deserve some bonus points on Pick'ems for that.
Let me tell you.
The Brentwood High one wasn't really like crystal ball stuff.
Something's getting ready to happen on Pick'ems. This is the week.
This is the week.
I've strategically tried to plan where we both pick to get some picks. But,
something's got to happen.
But, I feel like, I don't want this to be desperation time, but you did this a couple of years ago. I think it was last year, actually, where it got to the point you said, I've got to just take a chance on this game. I feel like that's what I'm getting ready to do, and I'm going to either be in first or it's over.
Feast or famine.
It's going to be over. If I pick what I think I'm getting ready to pick, I'm going to be in first or behind the fans.
Go big or go home.
I'm afraid I'm going to be going home.
What Dale Sr. say, second place is just first loser?
That's right. That's right. Hey, let's jump into these week 8 games. Our week 8, right? Yep. It's 9, but our week 8. Let's start off with Ravenwood Franklin. I was at that game. 28-7. Pretty sloppy, pretty chippy. The third quarter is the longest quarter I think I've ever witnessed in my life outside of a huge injury or some kind of storm. It was penalty here, thrown out here. And I know Coach Hester's not happy about this. 18 total penalties. Ravenwood had 11 for 128. Now, I'm not blaming any team for anything. I promise you I'm not. But the fact that it was sloppy, chippy, I thought it favored Franklin.
I think so too.
I really do, and they were in there, and I tell you what, they're going to match up. Just I've said it here. Week 2 of the playoffs, they're going to play again.
That want to be a can't miss. But you're right. No, I think Franklin came in with an attitude of, hey, we're not here to back down. We're not here to be intimidated. We're not intimidated, and it did. And you're exactly right. It obviously, one, as well as they're playing and being undefeated. If you ask Coach Hester, a couple of things that have needed to be cleaned up for a while now are penalties and turnovers to get where they want to go, right? And so obviously what they did was able to take them out of their game a little bit and, you did it for years. You just can't. The great teams can't let that happen.
Well, the good news is they're still winning.
Still winning.
You're right, Mr. Mathews. 14-7 for a long time, but then there in the fourth quarter, Maverick Chance, Caden Pace with a couple of rushing touchdowns make it 28-7. Pace ends up with 94 yards rushing, and I'm telling you, he makes people miss. He can take a hit and get away, and he's the youngest of 6, and I'm sure a lot of folks will be celebrating his graduation and no more Paces coming back.
No doubt about it. The Pace family's been very good to Ravenwood Raptor football. Ravenwood Raptor football has been good to the Pace family. I tell you what, they're all tough, too. They've all had to overcome injuries.
He's tough.
And they come back, they run tough, they're fun to watch, and we've been talking about it, but I really do think that was the difference in the game, is the physical. Again, Franklin showed up to fight, and they weren't going to be back down. But this is one of the more physical Franklin teams. I mean, physical Ravenwood teams that we've seen. Pace is a big part of that, but being able to line up and run the ball at them, and second half be able to wear them down and get the win. I thought that was a big part of it. And we had some big plays too. The jump pass or whatever, I don't even know what the Tebow pass.
The Tebow pass.
But is it the Tebow pass if it's not on the goal line?
No,
yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. So the jump pass to Mr. Starr, who then took that thing and took off like a bolt of lightning. So you had your big plays too. But again, the penalties, the turnovers, no good. But having to grind out and win a game against a really good 6A Franklin team, physical, running the ball, they're going to need to be able to do that this week, and that's what they're going to need to be able to do in the 6A playoffs. So I think this was a really good game that was needed at the time, because there had been some that weren't real challenging for the Raptors. I thought that was big. And then again, finishing off, echoing what you just said, I thought that was a typo when I first read it. 8 sacks?
8 sacks.
That's a lot of sacks.
They were teeing off.
Especially against Franklin.
They were teeing off in the second half.
They were coming.
I think they had 5 in the second half. Franklin got into some obvious pass sort of situations, and Wilson was running for his life. He ends up with 178 yards, touchdown pass to Lucas Young. But 2 stats that stood out, or really about 3. Those penalties, that stood out being negative, but then the 8 sacks, and then 10 rushing yards for Franklin.
Right.
You're right about that Ravenwood defense. We talk about the Page defense a lot. Ravenwood's right there.
Oh.
Great defense.
Hey, I'd like to see them play, because here's the thing. What they said was, you're not going to run the ball against us. Well, I mean, everybody knows about Brewer and Lucas and Wills, and you know what I'm saying? I mean, so it's one thing to say you're not going to run on us and we trust our secondary, but you know what I'm saying? Because you might not really.
Right.
They did, and I mean, he had 178 yards, had that nice touchdown to Lucas Young, but for the most part they did. And so if you can shut that passing attack down, you might see better offenses later on in the year than Franklin. But, I mean, you're not going to find anybody with that combo of wide receivers and quarterback any better than that.
Starr, Smotherman, Pollard, all getting the job done back there. And again, second round of the playoffs, it's coming again.
Can't wait.
Here's another good matchup. Now, the last couple of years, non-region matchups, when Centennial went back down to 5A, but great contests. Brentwood with the home win over Centennial, 20-0. Brentwood jumped out 14-0 early. And then what's Centennial do? They kick a field goal late in the first half to cut it to 14-3. Then it's kind of a stalemate. Our guy, Riley Turner, had a great game as quarterback, throws a touchdown to Isaac Bonds. It's 14-10 pretty much the entire third or fourth quarter. And Centennial had the ball a couple times with a chance to score. I think they got it all the way down to the Brentwood 42-yard line and didn't make it on a 4th and 2. Eventually, that final score, last play of the game, they had to just kind of throw it up. Mason Ball with the pick 6 for Brentwood for the final margin of 20-10. But really, that game was very much in question that entire fourth quarter. Here's what I think. I think what that game does for Centennial, and especially what's happened with Page, just blowing people's doors off. I think it makes it a better game this week because Centennial has just played Brentwood.
Yeah, I agree. And there was a lot of things that I know you're probably getting ready to mention it, but the stat that jumped out to me just blew my mind when you see the score. But then also you talk about that last one was a pick six. Still, great job by Mason Ball, the lone returning starter from last year's defense. Think about that.
I think I said Bell, by the way. Ball.
I think you said Ball, didn't you?
Okay.
Okay, yeah. You had, yeah. You said Ball.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think we've talked enough about that. Look at where this team is this year. They lost 10 out of 11 defensive starters. That defense is dang good. But when I saw Centennial led the total yardage for the game, 309 to 223. I mean, that I would have thought, oh, wow, maybe Centennial picked this thing off. So 10 penalties got them. They lost the turnover battle 2-1. But, yeah, I think and then Riley.
I think the 10 penalties was total.
Total. Oh, in the game.
Both teams, yes.
Gotcha.
So Centennial shored that up.
They did.
One had 4, one had 6. Not sure which way, but either way, better for Centennial.
But would you have not, when you see that, I would have, 309 to 223, Centennial leads the total yardage. Would you not have assumed at least half of that was running the ball?
Sure.
It was 300, and Riley Turner threw for 312. They had -3 rushing yards. I wouldn't have guessed that at all.
No, that game didn't really go the way most people would have thought. But, and I say it all the time. I talk to people all the time, and I always mention this. What Coach Stewart has done at Centennial, they've got a different – Coach Kreisky was great. I'm not saying that. I hope that's not interpreted that way. Coach Stewart has added, in my mind, this we're as good as anybody kind of attitude, which I'll be honest with you, they didn't have before. They didn't.
Yeah.
But they've got it now.
Well, he did the same thing at East Nashville.
It's got something to it. And Coach Kreisky did a great job too, so I don't take that other than me bragging on Coach Stewart. It's like it's gone up a notch when it comes to that part of it.
Yeah, I agree. So I say all that to say, I think you're right, but you're not going to beat Page with -3. You're not going to beat Page without at least 100. They're going to have to find a way to run the ball against Page.
That's going to be tough.
Humble opinion.
It's going to be tough sledding.
Yep.
Gavin Nelson, for Brentwood, 97 rushing yards. J.C. White, 55 passing, 31 rushing. Now, let's go to the WCTV Game of the Week. And really, we'll say the final score, and we got to get right into the play of the week. Independence with a 30-0 win at Fairview. And with that, Mr. Mathews, let's take a look at that play of the week.
Opening kickoff, the Eagles deep after return, surprise onside. And number 40 takes the squib onside back to the house. So just like that, 9 seconds into the game, and Independence scores first. Lucas Penland, the sophomore, with the return.
Well, I don't want to steal your thunder. You get to it. I think there was a couple of records broken right there. But what a great way to start it off. The Yellow Jackets elect to onside kick the very first play, and we're sitting there. We're ready. What's my man's name? Pellman?
Oh, Penland.
Penland.
Lucas Penland.
My man Lucas Penland he did what he was supposed to do, right? Let that thing go 10 yards. He caught it, and then that thing parted like the Red Sea. He was probably thinking, "What?
Did anybody touch him?
No, nobody touched him." And he just ran, and they takes it back, return a kickoff for touchdown to start the game off. I'm sure he was thinking, "Am I on camera? This can't be this easy." Candid camera, and he goes in, no flags, no whistles. Boom! The Eagles are up 6-0.
I'm going to say, well, first of all, they tied a national record and you score on the first play of the game. But I'm going to say, unless somebody was both untouched and faster, that may be the quickest score in high school football history. 8 seconds according to the clock.
It's definitely the fastest in WILLCO history, unless Ben Hubbard or Donovan Starr returned one like that.
But if they had to dodge somebody.
Oh, yeah, and they wouldn't have been on the front row. Like, yeah, I'm going with you. Fastest score in history.
But listen, I kind of like it from Coach Hughes, big-time underdogs, but they just didn't – that wasn't executed. I'm not talking about them getting the ball.
Correct.
But in terms of them just –
We have to tackle.
Right.
Boys, if we don't get the ball, we must
tackle.
Yeah.
But I do like the gutsy play.
Love it. Well, I think he thought they were going to have to do some things like that to win, and they probably did. And, hey, man, you're a genius if it works, and not so much if it doesn't.
A lot of armchair quarterbacks, I'm sure.
He's okay with that. He's got thick skin.
That's the way it is. Independence 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, 27-0 at the half. Again, that final 30-0. Couple stats here. Matthew Horner, 4 for 4, 47 yards. He also had 44 rushing yards and a touchdown. Eli Bauman, Hunter Mullen with rushing TDs. Highlights for Fairview, Trayvon Murray, 40 tough rushing yards. I think he had like 13 carries, 7 tackles. Will Frank with 10 tackles. Now, Page High School. There's going to be a couple of gems on this one, Tate. 38-0 over Hillsboro. Shutout number 7 for Page as they go to 8-0 in the season. But it leads me to our first gem. Okay, gem number 1. This is the serious one. Page has won 16 straight regular season games. Their last loss, week 2 last year against Independence, that was like several overtimes. But
3.
Intern Will. By the way, he's going to lose the intern part of his name for this great stat. Intern Will told me that WCTV has as many shutouts as Page. This is the stat of the day.
Is WCTV going to get put up? Is intern Will going to be at the WILLCOs as Defensive Player of the Year candidate?
For what? And the beginning of the year they just picked the games, but every game but one has been a shutout. Battle of Franklin was a tight one, but since then,
Shutout City.
So Nowensville Summit, you're the game this week. Somebody's not scoring, but one of you's getting shut out. Now let me say this about Page. I do think, because I've worried about this all year. Again, I went on record, and I'm going to stay on record as saying the semifinal with Beach, the winner wins the state title. I'm worried about the ease of wins for Page. Some of it you can't help, right? It's a region game. What are they going to do? Hillsboro's a great brand.
Yeah.
38-0. 7 shutouts in 8 games. They've given up 1 touchdown. It was the reach over the top touchdown Lawson last week. But their last 2 games are against Centennial and Nowensville, both on the road. I think it's just what the Dr. Quall's prescription of the week for them to go on the road against those 2. That's their 2 toughest games, and they're both on the road. They need it. They need it.
They need it. This games they'll be excited and up for. Practice will be good those weeks. And they're ready for it, yeah. And then it'll get them fine-tuned for the playoffs. But, yes, Hillsboro, you go back and look at their scores, they're not the Briley Parkway dump here. I mean, they've got some pretty good athletes.
They got waxed.
They got waxed. I know, that's what I'm saying. So
I know.
It obviously wasn't a letdown there. They showed up ready to play.
It's that Page defense.
It's so good. So, but I'm very excited about this Centennial game and then the Nolensville game. But and guess who else is excited about the Centennial? They hear it. They know. You don't think our man Hazard, he watches. He knows you're on that Centennial train. Kind of been foreshadowing. Does Centennial have something for the Page defense? They've been watching it. They know. They're fired up. They want to see Centennial as much.
Eric, if you're out there watching, everybody knows.
Hey, come in real close.
I was on the sophomore Eric Hazard train early.
No doubt.
Love Eric Hazard.
I know you do.
Even though he's going to Louisville, I'm not, but I still love him.
Yeah,
I've told you about somebody that we both know very well.
Exactly.
I hope you play great and your team loses every game.
Every game. Not just most, every.
I love Hazard.
I think Page, yes, everything you just said, I think Page is very excited. The other cool thing is in these 38, in these blowouts that are happening every week, a lot of people, it's not one player with 3 or 4 touchdowns. Right. It's they've got 4 people touchdowns. I mean, there's a lot of weapons on this team.
Nobody needs the playoffs to start quicker than Page does. There's always a team where that's the case. They're the team this year. Like, let's get the playoffs started.
And not to go back, but let's think. I know we're going to talk about it in Pick'ems, but those are two tough ones to end. Ravenwood has Oakland and Brentwood left. So
They do. They do. All right, let's talk Nolensville 30. And I still think it's been fairly quiet. Nolensville has one region game left, and it should be for the region title. It will be in some respect, no matter what, either three-way or whatever it's going to be. Nolensville 37-7 over James Lawson. Jack, don't call me Deaver. It's Dever with a 7-yard rushing touchdown to open the scoring in the second quarter. Lawson tied it on the next possession. Then what happens? 30 straight for Nolensville. They get touchdown passes from our man Jack to Smotherman, and also a Smotherman rushing touchdown. It's 21-7 at the half. A couple of Tristan Lethmaxi touchdowns in the second half. Here's the thing that always shows up. By the way, he had 111 yards rushing, 177 total yards. I always say this about Coach Derrick. I love Coach Derrick and what he does defensively. We can't call him the doctor of defense. That's Donnie. Well,
yeah, let's take him.
But whatever. The physician's assistant.
Maestro.
Whatever it is. I think more than anybody, because I've watched them play several times, you might get a little something early in the game, and then it just gets totally shut down.
Yeah.
His adjustments defensively, and what do I know? But I know that.
No,
I watch the games.
You got eyes.
It's impressive. It's impressive what he does defensively.
Well, we call him Pauly D, kind of, that's kind of got an ode to the Beastie Boys, so maybe master of ceremonies of defense, the MC of defense. I kind of like that
You're
one.
on to something.
I kind of feel it that way.
The MC of D.
The MC of D. There you go. There we go. We just coined it. But back to Jack Dever. It tied up, and then he took him on 30 straight points. I think he's playing really, really well as well. But you're right, man. Coach Derrick and his staff, they're really good at adjustments. When he was a GA, he had to spend a lot of time in the film room splicing and watching film. He's watched a lot of football, so when he sees something, he usually remembers where he saw it. So I'm with you. They are. Who do they have next? Oh, they've got. Who do they have next?
Summit.
Summit. Yeah. So, that is for they still have a chance to win first place in the region.
Week 10.
It's in their own hands.
That's right. My favorite game of the week, maybe. Summit, they've been battling. They lost 6 straight. They have all these injuries. And now, we said it would happen, but now it is happening. They go into the final game of the season in 2 weeks. Winner goes to the playoffs when they have that border battle with Independence.
Isn't that crazy?
It's great. 48-7 win over Overton. It was 48-0 at the half. So obviously they let off the gas there a little bit. Mason McElhaney, Jackson Krinke, 2 rushing touchdowns, and then McElhaney a couple of touchdown passes to Luke Oliver. And then they had a pick 6, Aiden Britton, to basically end the first half. The defense only gave up 159 total yards. They're matching up this week. Nolensville Summit should be a defensive battle.
I think so too, and that's what we thought we were going to see all year long with McElhaney. A couple of touchdowns rushing, a couple of touchdowns passing. Great to see them get. They've had so many injuries this year. Great to see Summit get on the winning side of the column. Happy for Coach Coleman, and they're starting to get healthy. I think they're a little bit of a matchup problem for Nolensville. Offensively,
the Indy Summit pick next week will be a.
That'll be a separation Friday as well.
It could be. All right, let's do this. Let's talk about these state tournaments we got this week. Very exciting.
Can't wait.
We'll start with volleyball. We'll go through the bracket here in just a second. But since the last show, we had a region championship. It was at Nolensville. We knew it would be Brentwood and Nolensville again. This was matchup number 4. Nolensville was up 3-0. Brentwood wins the region title 3-2. They win the final set 15-6, and that was at Nolensville. Semis, they both dominate. They both win handily. Nolensville over Lincoln County, Brentwood over Lawrence. Then we have the sectional. Brentwood cruises at home. They beat Station Camp 3-0, 25-9, 25-14, 25-18. And then Nolensville, hey, you got to give it to Green Hill.
Dogfight.
Green Hill has gotten really good in sports and athletics as quick as any school I've ever seen.
Yep.
I mean, it's been impressive. Nolensville loses set 1. They lose set 3 on the road. They go 24-16, 15-8. Kyra Knox, when it mattered, she big time stepped up. And another note from that, it's the first time we've had a sectional played in a mall.
Yes, with the food court right down the road.
So before we give them too much.
I still don't understand why they're in that Wilson County region.
Is that area called the Green Hill area or something? Because, I mean, there's no way I would have named it after a mall. In the semifinals, Green Hill defeated Rivergate.
Well, no, Station can't beat Rivergate to get to the Brentwood game.
Man, come on.
It's weak.
Hey, I did want to mention this too. We mentioned it last week, but you and I didn't get a chance to talk about it. Fairview making it to the region semifinals, a good year for them. They had a nice season. They really did. Hey, let's look at that bracket real quick before we look at soccer. So, now honestly, I feel like Nolensville, especially when you're talking about matchup number 1, their road maybe is a little better than Brentwood's. Brentwood jumps right out with Collierville, 37-7, a good team.
Yes.
Nolensville starts with Blackman. Nolensville's going to win that about as fast as you can say Blackman.
Yep.
That's the top of the bracket. And then Houston Farragut, record-wise, I think it looks tough, but I'm going to say that's probably Houston based on they're another one of those programs.
Yes.
Agreed? We both think Nolensville, Houston.
No.
Oh.
No, but your information was correct, and
You think you're going with your school, aren't you?
I'll go with Farragut, man. I'm going Nolensville Farragut.
The Admirals.
The Lady Admirals, baby. Come on.
Because you think it or because you know?
I believe it. Sometimes you just got to believe it.
Okay, so you've got.
But guess what? They're going home pretty soon after that.
So I say Nolensville, Houston. I say Nolensville gets to the finals of the winners bracket. You say Nolensville, Farragut. Again, bye-bye Farragut in terms of the winners bracket.
Correct.
All right, what about the bottom half? You take over there, Tate.
I think you're right, Collierville. I think most people, if they're not homers like us, I think they think they're the number 1 seed. But I'm going to go Brentwood over Collierville because of what you always talk about, iron versus iron. I don't know who. I know Collierville's really good. I know that they're going there to win the state. I know this. They didn't play Nolensville 4 times to get here. So I'm going Brentwood. I think East Hamilton picks off Maryville. And then Brentwood will defeat East Hamilton. We now have Nolensville, Brentwood. This would be part 5, correct?
Part 5.
In the semis.
So here's what I think we both agree. That whoever loses that one, they're going to go back and win and then go back to a 1-game, 1-match win. So just to let you guys know, if you have to go through the not consolation, but the losers bracket, I hate even call it the losers bracket.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
It's what it is. You have to play an additional match, but then once you make the championship, it's winner take all. So if you're Brentwood, Nolensville, you lose, and I'm going to say Nolensville goes unscathed at the state tournament. I've said it all year. I'm going to go with it. So what would be tough about that, in my opinion, that means they would have beaten them for 4 or 5. Brentwood goes back and beats, doesn't matter, they're going to win. Then it's the 6th time. Right. I think there's maybe got to feel like a little pressure. We've beaten them 4 out of 5, and then, but if you're better, you're better. I think it's Nolensville's year. They've had a great year. They had a couple of scares before the state tournament. I think they go unscathed, but Brentwood's runner-up. Now, what do you say?
I say everything you said is right. I think Nolensville wins the semifinal match. Boop, they're over in the finals. Brentwood goes down to the consolation bracket. That's what we're going to call it. And they come back through Nolensville, Brentwood for the 6th time. I think the region champion, and I do think that you said they're better. Are you sure they're better? I'm not so sure they are. Region championship, I think that comes back to, I think that was a real confidence booster. I think it comes back to Hanem. Brentwood comes through the consolation bracket. I've said this since the beginning. You've said Nolensville, Brentwood. Brentwood state champs.
You're going Oatsville.
Dang
we love Oatsville. I'm going.
She's my number 1 draft pick.
I'm going Knox.
track or volleyball. Hey, two good ones.
Hey, listen.
That's like bird magic.
We can't lose either way.
Can't lose either way.
But an all WILLCO final would be awesome.
Which is the way it's supposed to be in volleyball. All's right in the world again.
Let's talk a little soccer. Hey, a little shout out to Fairview. They lose the district final to Sycamore. They play again in the region championship and they win 5-0 blowout. But then they get beat in the sectional. Valor takes them out. So again, a great
Valor's
season.
good.
They are.
Yeah. Now speaking of, where was that game? Where was that game? While we're throwing shade, where was that game?
Which one?
The Valor.
It was home because Fairview had won.
Okay. I was going to say because they play in an old Lowe's building, so you got games in malls, you got games in Lowe's buildings. I mean, the only thing you're going to be able to do to top this is have that outdoor volleyball match that Pulliam sent.
We need to do that.
That'd be unbelievable.
So Fairview, congratulations to them. Again, soccer, volleyball, great run in both of those. Now, let's talk about in our AAA class. What's Page do? They get blown out during the season to Franklin. They turn around and win the district championship. So you're thinking, okay, they play again in the region championship. Franklin will take care of business like they did earlier. No. They beat Page, but it was 1-0.
Yep.
Great matchup. Had to do it at the very end. Not like that first one. It was I think it was 6-0 when they played during the regular season. Then you turn around the sectional. You knew Franklin wasn't going to lose. They played Gallatin, our friends in Gallatin. I know you're watching.
Making ears bleed since 2018.
Franklin 6, Gallatin nothing. But then Page goes on the road. I have to admit, I was a little worried about this one. I know Russ Plummer ain't walking through that door. But they're playing Hendersonville. That's a traditional state power.
Yes.
Page goes on the road, Mr. Mathews. They win 3-1. What Coach Clapp and Page, what they've done these past few years, a lot of people thought, well, they'll jump up and they won't be. You'd be wrong. They have proven that they are as good as any team.
Yeah, and even when they were down, he always scheduled as many of the AAA teams as he could in non-region games, which is the way you do it. But
that's exactly what you do.
That's exactly how you do it. And look what's happened once he's gotten up there. But of the two sectional games, they had the tougher opponent. I mean, that's why they're on the road. Part of the reason why. So to go out there and get that win against Hendersonville, I think that really gets them ready for the state tournament. They're back where they belong. That's awesome. And then for Franklin goes out and beats Gallatin 6-0. Now, the loyal listeners or viewers of this show know that's boat race city. That's popcorn city in the game of soccer. But I thought this was awesome. Did you see what Mia Hassan did? One of the goals she scored was an unassisted corner kick.
Yes, I did see that against Gallatin. Against Gallatin.
Against Gallatin. Thanks, Gallatin. Hey, one, that is, I want to get.
Was she bending it like Beckham?
She bended it like Beckham. First of all, to get that scored on you, it's bad news, Gallatin. Okay, come in real close. You want to know why you haven't heard of that very much? Because it's really hard to do, and you should be ashamed when you let it happen. The other thing, so she knows how to bend it, curve it. She kicked that ball up in the air. The reason it's unassisted is nobody touched it. She kicked it, and the next thing that ball touched was the back of the net. You got to call Coach Burgoyne. If we can get a clip of that, that needs to be shown on here. That is, you just don't hear of that.
Well,
she bent it like Beckham. That's so awesome.
Now we don't know WILLCO and WILLCO crime.
Correct.
But this is similar to the onside kick for a touchdown to start the game unscathed.
Yeah, but I didn't talk about that.
So we've had that's two pretty unique kind of things that you see.
You might not see them again.
You might not see them again. Sorry, let's look at this soccer bracket. Now, I apologize for this. I know what it is, but soccer, they did the seeding. Regardless of district and region, the soccer people said, we want a max preps. We'll use max preps, and we're going to do seeding once we get to the state tournament. So look at this bracket.
Real quick, and then we'll go on real quick. Maybe that's another thing we talk about. Before we start complaining too much about that, I think the coaches,
they wanted
it. They voted and wanted it.
They wanted it, which I kind of disagree with.
Yeah, so the coaches wanted it.
I'm not opposed to seeding as long as you make sure that you're away from people in your league, which didn't necessarily happen. But Houston's the number one. They hadn't lost in like a few years, so the number one seed. They're in the bracket with Franklin. So Franklin's in that 4-5 matchup with Science Hill. So you got Houston, Oakland. Then you've got Science Hill, Franklin on the top part of the bracket. Tate, I'm going Houston, Franklin in the semi.
I concur. I agree.
So let's go to the bottom of the back bracket.
I don't even know how Oakland got there.
They don't either. They're 8-4-4. They don't know. Collierville, 14-3 against Page. Then it's Siegel, Bearden. What do you think's happening there?
I think Page wins probably 1-0. It's going to be a defensive shutout. It's going to be really, really tough. That's a tough first rounder, but I'm going Page. Bearden, the Siegel Stars, be taking up have the plastic bins ready because you're heading back up I-24 really soon. It's Page, Bearden.
I agree. So we got the same semi. Now, begrudgingly, I think Page loses a tough one to Bearden.
Yes.
And then here's what I'm going to say. The winner of the Houston-Franklin match, they're going to win it all.
Okay.
I don't always pick WCS. I feel like Franklin's had a bad break here or there, a loss at the wrong time the past couple of years when they've been kind of that team. This is the year they get it done.
So they beat Houston.
They beat Houston. They beat Bearden. Franklin's your state champion. Coach Burgoyne, my guy. So what I'm saying is we get state championship number 3 and 4 after this week.
That would be huge.
4 sports in, 4 titles.
4 titles. And Franklin, Lady Admirals, the previous ones were when they were the Lady Rebels. A long, long tradition of state championships
14.
on the
14.
women's side.
14.
Where they belong. I'm with you. I think Franklin beats Houston. I think it is a tough, tough game, but I do think they get the win. And then I think Bearden beats Page, unfortunately. And then in the game, I think that Houston game takes a little too much out of the Lady Admirals. I really do. As much as I don't like those guys, I think the Bearden Bulldogs, man. I think they get the win.
I don't like Bearden.
I don't either.
I've got about 35 reasons.
Oh,
maybe 33. I can't remember. Tried to erase a little.
Sorry about that.
Don't like Bearden. Twice, by the way.
Different sport.
Twice.
Yeah,
Twice. All right. You say Bearden, I say Franklin.
Yes.
And then we got cross country coming up, and we'll both predict a sweep.
I got a pretty good idea who's winning one of those.
Let's do this. Pick'ems, I know we're long on time, but we got a lot to talk about.
We had a lot to talk about.
Pick'ems. Last week, everybody goes undefeated. 6-0. Fans are 48-8. We're both 49-7. Dr. Qualls in first at 50-6. And remember, fans, you can keep going to WCS CO Athletics on X to keep voting. Now, Tate, strategically, I have placed where
I know
we're
what you've
picking.
done.
And I got Qualls' pick, by the way. I got his picks early. I didn't pick different because of what he did. But he never turns them in. He waits to the end. But he got them in early this week. But I want to mention one pick when we get to it.
Okay.
We'll start off. Brentwood at Independence. Your pick first.
Brentwood.
I agree. Brentwood. I think they're just too much for Indy, and then Indy and Brentwood both. Probably got an eye on week 10, both of them a little bit. I think Brentwood wins. Indy's getting better. My pick, Centennial versus Page. It's at Centennial. I think it's a fourth quarter game. No, I'm not doing it. I'm picking Page.
Come on, man.
But I think it's a fourth quarter game. I'm going Page.
Coach Stewart and I are tight, so he won't get mad at me. I'm going Page, and I do not think it's a fourth quarter game.
Oh, okay. Fairview, 2-0 at Sycamore, 1-1. What say you, Mr. Mathews?
You're not going to believe this because I don't normally, but man, Sycamore's got a rushing attack that really, really fears me. There have been years when this game I would have chuckled and had a hard time not making a smart aleck comment. And I know you're not going to do this, so I'm going with the War Eagles. I think Sycamore gets the win.
You messed me up. I'm going to
set the order.
I'm picking the opposite of you. I'm not saying I didn't think. I'm going Fairview.
Okay.
Fairview goes on the road. They get the dub. Mr. Mathews goes Sycamore. I'm going with Fairview to get me back on top.
Super interested. You're going Fairview.
I'm going Fairview. All right,
Qualls will go Fairview. Fans will go Fairview. So I'm stepping out here.
You are, and I will tell you this. Coach Hughes last week said, in terms of matching up, they don't match up as well with Sycamore as they do White House Heritage.
They don't.
Still going Fairview. Franklin at Mount Juliet, my pick.
Yep.
Now, Franklin hadn't won a game last year. Mount Juliet comes to town, they're undefeated. What's Franklin do? They get the dub. Great win for Franklin. I started looking at that Mount Juliet schedule.
It's not very good.
Gosh, it's not good, but I know you're wanting to pick Mount Juliet. I know you, so I'm going to try to outthink you here. I'm telling you, the Fairview thing is... Listen, I got my maroon tie on today. Franklin.
I thought you would.
I'm going Franklin at Mount Juliet. What say you, Mr. Mathews?
I don't believe any of it. I really don't. I don't believe any of it. Man, they went. I think they beat Lebanon 28-21. Antioch boat race. I mean, I don't believe any of it, and I think I like what Franklin's doing. I don't think that loss, they lose any confidence over that. If anything, I think it gave them confidence. So I'm with you sitting here at 4-4. Their 4 losses are to Brentwood, Ravenwood. Who was the other one? FRA. We're going to throw that one out. Brentwood, Ravenwood, and who was the other one? The third one. Why can't I get this?
Can't think.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They were all by a combined
Page.
Yeah, Page. Page, Brentwood, and Page and Brentwood
And Ravenwood.
and Ravenwood. I mean, those are 3 tough losses, man. You know what I'm saying?
They've
They're
got
really
one
good
loss between them.
They got 1 loss between them. I think they're just more tested. I think they beat Mount Juliet.
I do
really
too.
do. I think that schedule Mount Juliet's played has comes back to bite them. I'm going Franklin.
Nolensville at Summit. It's the WCTV game of the week. What say you, Mr. Mathews?
I'm going with the Knights. MC of D and the Knights. I just don't think Summit's gotten enough back yet. But I do think Summit's offense is especially with a healthy McElhaney, I think that's a matchup problem for Nolensville, but I think Nolensville gets the win.
Fourth quarter game. I'm going Nolensville.
Okay.
Final pick, I've got it. Ravenwood, 1 versus 2 at Oakland. Unbeatable Oakland. Both 8-0, 4-0. It's a non-region game. We'll see this matchup again in the playoffs, which have a little more on the line at the time. They're going to do it this time, and they're going to do it next time.
Ooh!
Ravenwood. I think last week's game kind of got them juiced a little bit. I'm going Ravenwood.
It's a good pick. Ravenwood's really good. Like I said, this is the type of Ravenwood team you're going to have to beat a really good Oakland team. Or back in the day, you know, one of the things that Coach Hester knew they had to do to get over the Whitehaven hump was they had to get more physical, get a little bit more nastiness in them, which they did. You're going to have to do that. Oakland's a little bit banged up, but I'm going Oakland. Yep.
You're going Oakland?
I'm going Oakland. I think Oakland gets them, but I think it's going to serve Ravenwood really well going into the Battle of the Wood, and then the playoffs. But
you surprised me twice.
Game 1, I'm going with the Patriots.
You surprised me twice.
And then they're going to have a whole film. They're going to have a whole film to study come playoff time.
Hey, listen, because I need to give Mama Hester, I know you're watching.
She knows I love her.
Coach Hester may not be watching, but share this with your son if he's not watching. Dr. Qualls picked Oakland.
He did? Wow.
That's got to hurt.
He's out.
It's got to hurt.
He's out of the crew.
Ravenwood.
You're going Ravenwood. So
I'm either going to be first or last when this week's over.
So you can't tell me.
You go Sycamore, Oakland. You can't tell me what. His other picks?
Yeah.
I can tell you his other picks.
All right.
Dr. Qualls went Brentwood. He
Yes.
agreed with us. He went Page. Agreed with us. He went Fairview. Agreed with me. He went Franklin. Agreed with us. Nolensville, Oakland. It's going to be interesting.
So Q and I could be tied, or he goes up 2.
If Oakland,
And then you're tied.
if Oakland and Sycamore win,
You're in trouble.
I'm just going to pick all underdogs. Tate, it's great having you back.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you being here.
I'm excited. Can't wait to see, talk some more volleyball, soccer, and football results next week.
Thank you for joining us for Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.